All the big YouTubers say it.
First thing you're gonna need is a good square.
I absolutely love Woodpecker's tools. I think they are phenomenal, amazing tools. I think they are top quality, but they are very expensive.
So I bought the be-all, end-all square, adjusted my MFT, and got some strange results. I'm going to show you the final solution and how I made a square that gave me more consistent results than this Woodpecker's 1281. There wasn't one solution, I was having multiple problems. I learned a lot as I found solutions, and I think other beginners like me might have multiple problems cutting square. Let's go to the beginning of the story. I started with a Makita track saw, the 105-inch and 55-inch rail. They both seen better days. I'd built a kitchen and done many hard renovations with these tools. When I did the renovations at my previous house, I wasn't happy with the amount out of square that my cabinets and most of the drawers were. I got them looking okay, but the finishing was tough going. I decided I needed to take control and invest in getting square cuts. And this is where my trouble began. I bought the PARF guide system and made an MFT top. And then I did the 5-cut method with brutal results. Was the problem the PARF guide system or my technique? It was about this time that I noticed I was getting a slight curve in my cuts. Was this because my top was sagging or my rail was curved? I had no way to test it. I had no reference. I decided that I either needed to invest or give up. And I wasn't ready to give up. I bought the Festool MFT and the Woodpecker's square. The results were better, but not great. I was still getting a slight curve in my cuts. Maybe my rail was bent. After scouring the internet, I stumbled upon a Festool video on adjusting the toe-in of your track saw. I decided to try this with my Makita. I got the squarest cut that I'd gotten so far, and the curve was gone. I had solved the problem. Or so I thought. On my next cut, the curve was back. The adjustment wouldn't stay on my Makita track saw. So I bought the Festool TS60, and the results were better, but still disappointing. I was getting what I considered to be mediocre results that compounded and made no sense to me. On one edge, I was out about 0.02 of an inch over 2 feet. This is exactly what Woodpecker's advertises. The problem is that when making 4 cuts to make a drawer bottom, for example, the last angle ends up being out by almost 1/16 of an inch. That didn't seem right to me. It certainly won't make a drawer square enough to install drawer slides without binding. There were 2 final pieces to the puzzle. One, the math didn't make sense to me. How can being out 1/1000th of an inch per foot on one side make a box that's 40,000ths of an inch out on the 4th cut? In my non-mathematical way of thinking about it, the 4th cut should be only 4,000ths of an inch out, which is perfectly acceptable. So I did what any person does in 2024. I asked ChatGPT. Sure enough, the math works. Being out 1/1000th of an inch per foot means that the 4th cut will be out 40,000ths of an inch on the 4th cut or thereabouts. My mission was to build a square that gave me more accurate and consistent cuts than the Woodpecker's 1281. My last purchase was feeler gauges. After many cuts, I figured out that if I added 11,000ths of an inch to one corner of the Woodpecker's square, I would get the best results on 4 cuts that I could get. I then made a large plywood square. I also figured out that cutting around a square is not the best way to get a square shape. If I cut a reference edge and then cut one side, using the same reference edge, I could cut the other side. All I needed was a parallel cut on the final side. This was the last piece of the puzzle. It also explains why people make their parallel cuts first and then use one reference edge to make their cross cuts. I've been incredibly happy with my ability to consistently get square cuts now. The lessons I learned were to make sure that your track saw has the correct toe in. The Parf guide system is fairly accurate, but don't be afraid to adjust it with feeler gauges and a couple of turns of tape. It turns out that 1/1000th of an inch per foot is not enough accuracy for me, and I'm okay to obsess about that. It's been much easier to assemble pieces using the square that I made. I learned that when people say they're getting perfectly square cuts, that I don't believe them anymore. There's no such thing as perfectly square. There's only square enough. If you have questions about woodworking, I recommend you ask someone who knows. If you have questions about media, video creation, or recording music, I'd love to hear from you. Even though this video has nothing to do with content creation, it's just a place for me to tell fun stories.